Convo with Revive. You got my friend Edgar here. My name is Justino George. We're excited to be with you guys. I'm praying for many more episodes like this.
Are we ready to go?
Yeah. Episode 7. Edgar, how you feeling, man? How was your week?
I'm feeling good. Week has been good.
Yeah.
Just work. We got to enjoy a little bit of nice weather this week, except for today.
2 days, man. 2 days. It's a record.
Today was a day to stay home under a blanket and eat soup. But so far it has been good. How about you?
Man, this week, This week was just filled with a lot of anticipation. It was so much anticipation. I finished my final exams last week. Registered for my summer courses that, by God's grace, I'll be done with in like July or August. And yeah, man, I finished it. I was so worried. I was like, I don't know what grades I'm going to get. I have no idea what's going on. And my grades were great. And I was just like, why do I always worry about this stuff, man? It's like, it never fails. I always worry about that. But, other than that, man, it was really good by God's grace. Like you said, man, one of these days I was going to the gym, step outside and like, that warm breeze. Not like it was weird. Like I thought it was gonna be like a little cold. It was a warm breeze when I had my sweater on, and I was like, I'm sorry, what is this weather? So I just took a nice walk, just hung out and enjoyed it, man. And then today happened, and we had 2 days. I'm grateful for those 2 days. It's been like a record for me.
Hopefully we have better days coming up this way, Next week, Sunday is going to be good. I looked at the weather and this is going to be back in the 70s. So there's hope.
There's hope. A little bit of hope, man. And I'm excited, man. Also, tonight is the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Man, all I'm hoping for is that the Browns select. We just need. I think the defense is really good. Defense was great last year. Just need maybe a guard or two. A guard won't kill us. I think we're good at every position. I think we're pretty solid. Just a guard, shore up the offensive line, shore up the defensive line. Yeah, man.
I think that they were picking a linebacker.
Yeah.
But I also heard talked about a quarterback.
Hey,
so I don't know about that.
Look. I'll say this. I like Baker Mayfield a lot. He can ball. He can stay in Cleveland so long as the team's winning games. But yeah, I think it's a shift in the right direction, man. Cleveland stunk a few years ago, man. Like
it was horrible.
Dude, I became a Browns fan when I was like in maybe freshman, like probably like 8th, 9th year or something like that. I remember watching this guy, man, Johnny Manziel was like my favorite player ever, right? He was crazy good in college. And then I was like, if he goes to the Browns, I'll be a Browns fan. Goes to the Browns, does horribly. And I was like, I don't want to be a bandwagon. But like, how do you bandwagon a team that's already bad? So I've been with the Browns, man, since they were bad. And now we're seeing brighter days. And so
yeah, it's a change. It's a change. But with this whole NFL draft, and it makes us think. We're going to our weekend series coming up now. Our May series. Yeah, we're gonna be talking about decisions. And I could imagine the train of thought, the decision that all these people are trying to make for the benefit of the team.
Yeah.
Should I go with this person? Should I trade my spot to pick somebody else later?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of decisions and a little bit of time. Because once it's your time, they put you on the clock and you have to have your decisions ready.
Yeah.
So
I like that. I like that, man. I think life is kind of like this clock where we're always in an NFL draft, right?
Yeah.
We're always in an NFL draft. And I mean, if you see in the past years, not just in the NFL, but even basketball, baseball, doesn't matter, like any other sports, right? There's always a draft. And in these drafts, we've seen in the past that there was always that one mistake that a team makes, right? I mean, if you look at like Steph Curry, right? Well, before he was drafted, the Timberwolves selected, I think it was like 2 point guards that nobody ever heard of. And then you think, you're just like, what if they got Steph Curry, right? Like, where would that franchise be? And I don't know, man, it just gets me thinking. It's always like we're one decision away or one right or wrong mistake away from either the best moment in our lives or the absolute worst moment in our life, man. How do you navigate that, man? That's pressure right there, man.
That is pressure.
Mm.
You are right about that.
Yeah.
And it's those decisions that you're like, it could go either way.
Yeah.
So you don't know, So there's a lot of things that go into this depending on the decision that you're making. A lot of analysis that you have to make. Whether how is that decision going to affect me?
Yeah.
Not now, but on the long run.
Absolutely.
And not just me. How many people will that decision affect too?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think. Whenever I look at like the draft and stuff like that, man, and whenever I see like some of these, but like even right now, man, like I'm hoping that a team selects this guy Justin Fields. I watched him all year, unbelievable player. But over time, for some reason, people are saying he's not dedicated. People are just saying a lot of ill-advised things, and I don't know, man. It's just kind of it's so weird, man, because he can make a franchise better. But then there's still those rumblings about, is he really focused and stuff like that? And I feel like a lot of times, man, that's really how we are, right? Where we know a decision that we can make will lead us down a good path or a path of righteousness, but yet we're still kind of indecisive about it. So much so that instead of us picking the thing that's going to help us, we end up picking the thing that's going to destroy us. Like, am I right about that, man?
You're totally right about that. We just don't think beyond, right? And we only think about making the decision that we like.
Yeah.
What we think that is right for our lives.
Why is that though? What that we don't think in the future of things. We just think of like right now in the present.
Yeah, I mean, we tend to live the moment.
Yeah. Oh man.
And that's why wrong decisions get made.
Yeah.
You cannot live the moment. You have to you have to plan, you have to analyze all your choices. I mean, it's like when you build a house, you cannot say I'm deciding to build a house.
Yeah.
And then you start building, but then you run out of money and you end up having a roof and 4 walls, but nothing else. No windows, nothing else.
That's a great description of the house,
So,
man.
I mean, sometimes we just live, we could say like, yeah, I want to do this now.
Yeah. But
realistically, yeah, you could do it, but it's only going to get you to this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I don't know, man. I think most of us, we're prisoners of the moment.
Yeah.
Like I mean, man, I'll always relate it to the gym. Like some days I'm like, I do not want to go to the gym. Like I really don't want to go. But I know that if I decide I don't want to go to the gym today, it's going to be easier for me to decide that every other day. And somehow, some way, man, one small decision that we make usually ends up kind of, I don't know how to explain it, man. But it just almost feels like one small decision we make right now will ultimately lead us down this path that we make certain decisions that exact same way. So if I don't feel like going to the gym today, I'm also not going to feel like caring for the people I need to care about. I'm also not going to feel like going to work. I'm also not going to feel like going to church. It's all around sort of really the same. It's like around the same precedence, right?
It's a chain reaction.
Yeah. Absolutely. Edgar, what does the Bible tell us about decision making?
Ooh, we could see a lot of people in the Bible making good decisions and bad decisions.
Really bad decisions. Yeah.
I mean, we have, since the beginning, the decision that they made, Eve, to go away from Adam and just go to the tree and get the forbidden fruit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that was a decision that affected a lot of people.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think with that decision in particular, like with sin, right? I think sin is such like this complicated thing, right? And I never understood it until it got put into perspective for me, right? Sin makes you look at everything you have, um, and then it makes you go after what you do not have.
mhm,
So sin is so prideful in that aspect, right? Like you look at Adam and Eve, God gives them not just an entire garden.
mhm.
He gives them an entire planet. Says, "Hey, look, you guys go do whatever. You guys go be fruitful, multiply. You get to eat from this. You get to eat from that. You get all these things, and on top of that, you also get the presence of God with you, literally." In the garden, like the Bible says that he would go to see Adam in the cool of day. I mean, you have everything that you want. I mean, you're looking around and you're seeing trees of fruits, of different types of fruits and vegetations. And then you look at this one thing that you don't have, and you're like, oh no, if I don't get it, I'm gonna die. Like, why is that, man? Like, why do we have everything that we could possibly want and need? Why is it that we only look for the things that we don't need, but we want? Does that make sense? I know that's a really tough
Yeah,
one.
it makes sense, but that happens not just back then, but it
Mm,
happens now.
yeah.
You have a lot of people um that are wealthy, right? And
Mm,
the
mm.
wealthy, they would just want to get what?
More wealthy, right?
More wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
um and for what? They already
Mm,
have it. Why
yeah.
why would they want to do that? And sometimes, not sometimes, but we have seen that
Mm,
that doesn't bring you happiness.
yeah.
So I think that your what you're trying to pursue and your goal
Mm,
should also be aligned with what you are trying to decide. I mean, your decision should be um, based on that.
mm,
Your your purpose
mm,
and your goal.
yeah.
You know.
I think most of us are really selfish when it comes to making decisions, though. Like, it's so funny because most of us, we make personal decisions, but we're really selfish in that aspect, right? Where we're only thinking of me in that
Mhm.
decision that we're about to make. Right? I mean, yeah, man, I don't know. It's so weird, right? Like, everything, man. And it feels like every single decision you make, where you go to school, how you'll pay for school, what church you want to go to, how you'll be there at the church, what things will you do, what changes will you make to the church. Every single thing you do will impact somebody else
Yeah.
in a certain type of way. But most of us, we're always looking at it from what I want.
What I could get out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And we're never thinking about other people. You know, it's so funny. I think one of the decisions that we see in the Bible, right, is when Jesus heals the woman who was bleeding for 12 years, right? Because Jesus made the decision to take some time to speak to this woman, who's Jairus' daughter ends up dying, right?
Mhm.
And that was a decision where Jesus had to make it on the spot, or if we believe that Jesus already knew about this beforehand. But I don't know. I like to make it a little, I don't know, a little more intense, right? Where Jesus had to make that moment or that decision on the spot. Um, and I know at that moment for Jesus, it was probably a hard decision to make. Uh, not because not because he could not rescue this little girl who had just died, but I think, man, I don't know, bro. It's so tough.
I think to me,
Mm,
it was more about the impact
yeah,
of the end result of the decision.
yeah, yeah.
Um, you know, not just that the girl was gonna
Mm,
be alive again,
mm,
but the impact that will cause in the dad's
yeah.
life.
Yeah, and I think also, even when you look at a situation like, Jesus raising Lazarus, Jesus weeps, man. He
Yeah.
cries, right? And when I look at the situation between the little girl and the woman who was bleeding for 12 years, man, Jesus, his heart must have been broken. When he got news that the little girl had passed away, right? And it's so weird because Jesus knew he had the power to bring her back to life. But perhaps it was when he walked in the home and people were crying and hysterical that Jesus still felt that hurt in his heart, knowing that this little girl, they pronounced her dead. And I know for Jesus, man, that was a really difficult decision. And I can imagine Jesus Christ making a tough decision. I'll ask you, man, what has been a difficult decision in your life? You can be super honest, 100% honest.
When it comes to decision, I'm gonna be honest. It's sometimes it's hard for me to make decisions, and you could ask my wife.
You leave it up to her to make all the decisions.
So one of the decisions that everybody struggle with is what do you eat? What do you want to eat tonight? So and it's like whatever. Or when you want, when we used to go out to restaurants. Back then, when we used to go out, they'd be like, "So, where do you want to go?"
I don't know.
Anywhere do you want to go, right? So, I like to have when I make decisions, I like to have choices.
Yeah.
And sometimes that makes it harder to make the decision.
Oh yeah.
For some people, it's just like 1, 2, and that's it.
Yeah.
But I'm the kind of person that I have to have A, B, C, and D. And sometimes E comes along, and it makes it harder for me to make the decision. But I think toughest decision, one of the toughest decisions would be I don't know, just what you end up doing for work. I mean, sometimes those decisions are tough in the sense that am I gonna like it or not? Because it's something that I cannot just I could drop it and do something else, but at the end of the day, do I start all over again?
Yeah.
A lot of people struggle with that. But I think that has been one of my toughest. One of my easiest would be just to marry my wife. So I think that God was very generous. I only had one choice.
Amen. Amen. And it was the best choice.
And it was the best choice. Yeah.
Amen.
What about you, Justino?
Toughest decision, man. The friends, the friends of my life. The friends of my life. I think, was it kindergarten, middle school? I think you're right, man, about it's sort of easier to make a decision when you have choices. When you don't have any choice, it's almost impossible to make a decision. Then you're doing it out of desperation, right?
Yeah.
Man, I think for me, growing up, man, I had like always, the same group of friends, and just kind of growing up and getting into high school. I was like my own guy, just doing a bunch of dumb stuff with my friends, and it was so enjoyable and it was fun, right? I'm sorry, moving and friends. Moving and friends is the tough one because what I'm explaining is moving, right? I think just moving because for me, I was so tight with a lot of my friends. Like, man, we'd hang out, if not every single day, it was every other day. And we'd always find time to talk on the phone and things of that nature. But as I started realizing my calling, right, and also my calling, I mean, man, there's so many difficult decisions.
That is a difficult decision.
Man, like when I realized my calling, that's when I had to start realizing, okay, I can't do some of the stuff I'm accustomed to doing, or I can't do a lot of the stuff that I used to enjoy doing. Because a lot of those things were of the flesh. They weren't really godly. So if God is calling me to a new life, I have to embrace it, right?
Right.
So for me, man, it was just, and I think a lot of times we outgrow people, right? And even if you outgrow people, it doesn't remove the emotions that are there, right? So you feel sad when you don't speak to a friend for a long time. You feel sad when you don't hang out with some of the friends you've been hanging out with. These are real, honest emotions. And for me, man, when I started like moving, from back home to school, a lot of those phone calls that were every day, it started getting to every week. And most of the time, man, now it's maybe once a month or something like that where I'm hearing from them. And it's sad, not hearing from them for a long time. But yeah, man, that was one of the toughest ones, man, because it's like we all grew up together. We all came up together. But once life and my calling really started becoming my mission and my desire for my life, slowly but surely, man, it was almost like all those things started like disappearing. And it's been tough because you miss those people, you miss having fun, but you also recognize that that's just not the way of life anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's more to this life than some of the things that we used to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I think that I think that makes sense, man. So how should we go about making decisions? Not just in a godly way, because I think for most people who aren't super spiritual, they don't make sense. I mean, they don't make decisions in the spiritual. But how should we go about just making decisions generally?
I think yeah, you had to analyze
Mm,
what you have in front of you,
mhm,
pros and cons,
mhm,
and see how's that gonna affect
mhm,
you.
mhm.
If you have a family, how it's gonna affect the people that surrounds you.
Yeah.
Um, it's very important just to think, analyze that
Mhm.
instead of just rushing into a decision.
Yeah.
When it comes to spirits, if you are spiritual,
Mhm.
and you have Jesus in your life,
Mm.
I mean, you have to kind of like think about, is that decision goes with my values?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And even if you're not a spiritual, I mean, you have values.
You do. You do. In
So
principles. Yeah.
yeah, so
Mm.
does that decision goes with my values or
Mm.
against my values? And the
Yeah.
same thing, is that decision goes with God
Mhm.
or against God? And if
Yeah.
that decision eliminates God out of the
Mm.
equation, then
Shouldn't
you should
shouldn't
start
do that.
looking at something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely, man. And I think I think making sober-minded decisions as well. There was this book I read. It's called The Next Right Thing. Crazy good book, man. I spoke a little bit about it on the podcast, man. Crazy good book. And typically you'll hear it growing up, right? In certain households, they'll be like, if you don't know what to do right now, just do the next right thing, right? So typically you'll always know what's the best thing to do after the decision that you don't really want to
Yeah.
make. And it's so weird, man. It's like it's such a tough thing, man. It's such a
Yeah.
tough thing, right? But I think what the book speaks about, right, is just always having a clear mind whenever you're making a decision. But we never have clear minds when we're making a decision. I mean, it's almost impossible for any of us to make a decision when our mind is free from all. And here's the thing, man, we grow up and we listen to so many things, we hear so many things. So when we're making a decision, a lot of our decisions are made off what has this person said, what they said, what I'm saying to myself, what somebody is saying to me, and then I'm forming my decision based off that, right? But it's rare that I get to a place in solitude where I'm just quiet, relaxed, calm. There's nothing in my mind except just meditation, right? And then after that, I make a decision based off really what my spirit is telling me, right? Like what my soul, what God is telling me. And I think that's how each of us should make a decision. But it's so hard to get to that place where it's just nothing.
Yeah.
like that's all it is, nothing,
Yeah.
right? Mhm.
So you touch a good point
Mhm.
when you said, we base our decisions sometimes in the people that surround us,
Yeah, man.
whether it's family, whether it's friends.
Hmm.
They do have influences
Yeah,
in our lives.
yeah.
So sometimes we make decisions
Mhm.
to
Please others.
to please people.
Yeah.
I mean, we have
So
to be
weird.
honest. I mean,
Yeah.
we make decisions to make people happy,
Hmm.
and sometimes we're not making ourselves happy.
Yeah.
So we're kind of like, we have this it's kind of like identity crisis in making the decision, because
Yeah.
and that's a different topic,
Yeah.
but it doesn't align with you when
Yeah.
you're making the decision because somebody else is telling you to, and
Mhm.
you don't want to make them feel bad,
Hmm.
but at that point you have to really analyze what is that what you want.
Yeah.
And instead of pleasing your friends or your family, you have to also look, what am I pleasing God?
Hmm.
And if you're not,
Mm,
again, that's a decision that you shouldn't be
yeah.
considering.
Yeah. And also, man, I think for most of us, we act like God isn't concerned about our well being, right? Because we're like I just want to do what God wants. That's all. But then God is also there, like, okay, well, what do you want, right? As
Yeah.
well. And I think we have a guy. I think there, well, a pastor that I know, right? Great dude, family friend. Jorge Coxac, great guy, man. I love that dude to death. He was saying, he had this devotion, right? And he said that not only does God love us, but he likes us as well, right? And I never ever understood that. But like when you think of when you like someone, right? Like when you have a crush, when you like someone, like they're infatuated with you, they really like they desire to have you type of
Mm-hmm.
thing. But it also shows how much you care for that person, right? So when you like somebody, you genuinely care for them. So if they're hurting and stuff like you like them so much that it kind of hurts. It really hurts you to see them in that way. So God, it's not that just God only cares about sort of himself, but God also wants to tend to our own, to what we feel. And the thing is, when you start this new life with Jesus, right? He gives you a new heart, right?
Right.
And here it is, right? Most of us we say, oh, like, oh, you follow Jesus and he'll give you the desires of your heart. Well, the heart that it's speaking about, it isn't the heart that you have now, right? Which is this heart of like just pure sin and iniquity, and it's a deceitful heart that we have. But once we give our lives to Jesus, God has given us a new heart, and this is a clean heart. It's a heart that honors and glorifies and loves him. So with that heart, that's the heart that there are pure decisions. There are decisions that can honor and glorify and uplift his name. But I think for most of us, man, we don't make decisions the way we should.
Yeah.
And it's so weird.
I think that when you have, when you have accepted God's heart,
Mhm.
that new beginning in your life,
Yeah.
you are submitting yourself to Him.
Yeah.
So your decisions are not just based on you, but they're based on Him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that makes a big difference because
Mm.
we want to do things on our own.
Yeah.
My plans are my plans, but
Mhm.
you know what? The reality is that they're not your plans; they're
Yeah.
God's plan. And
Right.
if you have God helping you to make the decisions,
You
I'm
feel,
sure that
yeah.
your plans are that His plans are going to be your plans, and they're going to be
Yeah.
awesome.
And they line up with one
Yes.
another, and it's almost like you're in sync with God,
Yeah.
right?
You know, keep bringing bad decisions in the Bible, but we learn from bad decisions,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
we got Abraham.
Talk about bad decision, man.
Dude, that was just something that
It could have.
God told him.
Yeah,
Wait.
yeah. It could have been avoided.
Yes.
It could have been avoided. Mhm,
And I mean, there's a lot
mhm,
there's a lot of talk and a lot of confusion of the whole thing with Abraham
mhm.
that affected so many people.
Mhm, mhm,
By not accepting God's will of
Yeah.
waiting.
mhm.
God has something better for him.
Absolutely.
But this bad decisions also have consequences.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. I think just final question, man. Time flies by, man.
yeah, man, yeah.
Dude, final question I will ask is how can we approach a decision that we're going to make when even we know the consequences for those decisions?
Ooh.
Because it's crazy, right? The truth is, every decision will always have a consequence.
Yeah.
Even good decisions
Yes.
have consequences,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
so weird.
Yes.
I never knew that even good decisions bring their own share of consequences. So how should we approach these decisions? So we know to make a decision, I also have to learn to live with the consequence, right?
Mhm.
So how should we go about making a decision? Like, should we be afraid? Should we be like, how should we go about it, man?
Yeah. So you had to make the decision regardless.
Yeah.
So
man.
whether
just do it, right?
you had to make the decision again.
Yeah.
Just analyze what you're
Mhm.
doing and make sure that it doesn't go against what you believe, against your values,
Yeah.
and make the decision. Like you said, any decision is going to have
Yeah,
a reaction,
Yeah.
whether it's a positive reaction or a negative reaction.
Mhm.
When you make good decisions, they're going to have good
Positive, yeah.
positive reaction, right?
Mhm.
It's going to have consequences, it's going to have
Yeah.
reactions, so it's going to affect more people.
Yeah.
It's going to affect your life too.
Mhm.
So you chose to become in a career to become something that you wanted to do.
Mhm.
So at the end of the day, that makes you happy.
Yeah.
Like for example, God called you to be a minister, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you seem to enjoy it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure that if you would have had chosen to become a driver or to become
I'd hate it.
I don't know, a postal worker
Yeah.
or a nurse,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
probably will be like, man, what did I
Yeah.
do? You know?
Yeah.
And I seen, and this is a little off topic, but I
Mm-hmm.
seen people
Mm-hmm.
go into fields
Mm-hmm.
of study
Mm-hmm.
and becoming a, like an HR professional,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then later on saying like, I
Uh,
hate this,
yeah.
I don't like
Yeah.
it,
Yeah. And that's a
and they end
decision.
up going
Mm.
back and doing something else.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so your decisions, they might be good at that
Mhm.
time, but they are going to have consequences.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think most people, and also they make it off things like money,
Yes.
right? So it's like, I'm going to have more money, but money isn't the definer of happiness.
No.
And I think even when you look at good decisions leading to consequences, look at Jesus Christ's ministry. For every person he healed, it almost brought him closer to his crucifixion. I mean, Jesus healing people on the Sabbath had them conspiring against him to murder him. Every single decision we make, whether it be good or bad, there's always going to be a consequence, man.
Going back to Jesus, when
Yeah.
you say, his decision,
Mm.
even at the last minute,
Yeah, man.
he had,
He had a
the
decision.
choice.
Yeah, he did.
He
He
had the
did.
choice.
He did. He did.
And he asked the Father, he asked,
Mm.
if there's no other way,
Take this cup from me,
yes,
please.
if
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
any other way
Yeah.
for this to
Yeah.
happen. But you know what? Sometimes
Mm.
those are the only ways that we could go through
Mm.
something.
Mm.
I mean, it was beautiful, the great decision that Jesus made
Yeah.
by giving his life for us,
If-
us to have salvation. You
Man-
see the reaction
Yeah.
of one decision?
Yeah. And if you think about it, man, I don't think, I don't want to get too off topic, man, but when you look at Jesus Christ's sacrifice, man, this kind of the way I see it, right? Jesus, right? And because now at this point, right, like Jesus, for all his time on earth, he had not had, he's always been with the Father.
Mhm.
Him and the Father have always been one for forever. Since the Bible says, since in the beginning was the Word was with God. I mean, Jesus was always there. Now Jesus reaches this point, right, where he's about to encounter loneliness.
Yeah.
Like, dude, like it's so crazy to think that when you put into perspective, now Jesus is about to enter what most of us feel sometimes, right? Loneliness, right? And that loneliness that he was about to feel, and the way I see it is, I don't think that Jesus was saying, take this cup from me because he didn't want to suffer. I think it was just him seeing into I guess the future, because seeing ahead. That separation between him and the Father, right? Seeing that time where the Father would not reply to him. And man, when and you think about it, right? When you're far from God, right? It's almost like you can't hear his voice. You can almost imagine Jesus on the cross. I mean, up there, and his life is almost done, right? You can imagine that now he's about to say, like, I don't know, but I think somebody told me, right? They were like, Jesus, it was almost like he did not know, like, because he was covered in our own wickedness and our own sin, he didn't even know, or he may have forgotten in the process that he would come back to life in the upcoming days, right? So Jesus made a decision, right? He made two decisions. The first one, it was almost like Jesus was saying, if I have to be wiped away from humanity, from existence, to save you, I'll do it. And then the second decision was, I'm ready, even though I'm scared, I'm ready to be apart from the Father to save you. Like, those are two massive decisions right there. Like, two massive, man. Listen, man, it changes your life, right? When you put into perspective what Jesus sacrificed. I mean, to be that close with the Father forever. And I mean, Jesus literally says, if you see me, you've seen the Father. He and I are one. We share the same nature. To go all throughout And millions of years, let's say that, years and years and years and years and years. And now for this moment, there's separation between you and the Father, and you cannot hear on me. If you see the Father turn away from you, man, that was probably the worst moment. And that's probably something I'll never be able to understand. But that's a decision. And that decision changed the course of humanity forever. And because of that decision, now we know we have a Savior in Jesus. Like, man, every single decision we make, Jesus showed, don't make it about you.
No, no.
Don't, like, it's never about you, man. It's like, I don't know, man. It's never about you.
No, it's never about you. And I think that one of the best decisions that we could ever make is to follow him.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And give our lives to him. I could speak from experience.
Yeah.
I just, I know that I have somebody that I could talk to, and that could help me, guide me through any decision.
Yeah.
And if I'm not living for him, I mean, what am I doing?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I would say my final thing is there's the best choice you can make is the choice with Jesus.
That's right.
And I don't say that because I'm a pastor. I don't say that because I went to school for it. I say it because I know what being separated or feeling like I'm separated from Jesus is like. And it's one of the worst feelings. I mean, it's like, and it's so weird because even if you feel it, he's still there. It's just you're in your own sin and you don't recognize his presence. Being far from Jesus, man, it's a horrible feeling. You make decisions impulsively. You do things out of just bad decision making. But once you have Jesus there, things are easier. Things make sense. Things are always in perspective, and things just flow. They flow, man. So Edgar, what if
our decisions align with being with him?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I feel like every decision we make, it'll testify to if we serve God or not.
Yeah.
So what I would leave with you guys today is let your decision today, if you had not made the choice yet or the decision yet, let it be to follow God and do what Jacob did. Say, Lord, I will not let you go unless you bless me. Stick close to Jesus. I don't know, Jesus. I always feel like sometimes Jesus is annoyed with us, right? Every parent has that kid who's always like annoying them. But Jesus is like, if you're not annoying me, staying close to my foot, like bothering me, like tugging on me, like it means that you're far, that you're separated from me. You need to be close to the Father, and he invites us, and that's the thing, man. That's what separates Jesus from all this other idols that we worship, is that he invites us to worship with him freely. All he says is, come as you are. So today, make the decision today on episode number 7. Make the decision today to follow God. Join us every Saturday at 11 o'clock a.m. at 3631 Bosworth Road here in Cleveland, Ohio, for our coffee and conversations. Thank you so much. Edgar, man, episode 7.
Episode 7.
Let's do it. Yes.
Good stuff. Good stuff,
Good stuff, man.